sit in. So I don't keep
She should let me sit in. I should call and ask her if she let me sit in.
We're just doing some research about how Arkansas gave Israel $105 million.
They gave it. Who, the US?
Huh?
Who gave us?
Arkansas.
But they want to stay in Medicare? And then made somebody $105 million.
It's in bond. Israel bonds. Israeli
They
bonds.
bought.
Oh, they bought them.
Yeah.
But you want to stay in Medicare?
I agree.
Arkansas want to stay in Medicare?
No, and they won't do anything.
Well, you know they sent money back to the federal
Yes, even for housing.
for housing.
Yeah,
and for other things. They sent it back.
Especially from colleges themselves. The federal priority deadline.
Someone called me today. He works at Rice Plants, which is the largest rice distributor in the States in Arkansas. And I was like, oh, holy shit, how are the farmers? And he was like, not good. It's not good. Yeah, so we can talk to Sanders about that.
I'm on SPEC and I come on tomorrow. That's most of
Have a great time.
All right, sit down.
Programmer. And now she works with computers. I'm really glad she's home because I can't eat my dad's marshmallow macaroni anymore.
To support the Warriors to Work program, contact Wounded Warrior Project at findwwp.org. Welcome home the brave.
Did you know that your health insurance is going to get more expensive? Many Arkansas households will lose their coverage because the president and his allies in Congress want to take away funding that help thousands of households in Arkansas buy health insurance. They would rather give billionaires instead of helping working families get the care they need. The end result, insurance premiums get more expensive for everyone. Now the president and his allies refuse to negotiate with those representatives and senators who want to continue to help families stay healthy. Instead, they would rather shut down the government and fire thousands of federal employees. Call your U.S. representative and senator today. Tell them to help Arkansas families get the health care they need instead of shutting down the government and firing federal employees. For more information and the phone number for your U.S. representatives and senators, call Arkansas Community Organizations today at 501-376-7151, extension 1.
Vendors, this is your moment. Be a part of the 11th annual Dunbar Oktoberfest. Boots on the ground with every legacy. Happening Saturday, October 25th.
Ooh, everybody got a boots on the ground.
We're calling food trucks, boutiques, and community brands to join the excitement. Spaces are going fast and the crowds are big. And it's free to the public. To reserve your venue spot today, call 501-612-9698. That's 501-612-9698. Document your chance to be a part of this historic community celebration.
Yes, we coming in hot this morning with Zania Monet. This ain't no tryout. We're going to be talking about that just a little later. But right now, I just want to say thank you for being here, for showing up for Community Voices Live right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. And before I forget, the phone lines are already open at 501-433-0088, 501-433-0088. I am your host, the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise. And live in the studio this morning is their co-host, the Pastor Toney Orr.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Oh, good morning, everyone. I want to make sure that we take a moment to remind you of the purpose and the mission and goal of Community Voices in this season. And it is to center Blackness in the context of the human story. And we do that through the spirit of Sawubona. Sawubona is a Zulu tribal greeting, which means more than just hello. It means I am inviting you into my space so that you can receive the whole of who I am. And in turn, I want to receive you as the whole of who you are. So we are bound together by the oneness that is our humanity. So you are greeted this morning in that spirit of oneness, and you are welcome in this space. We want to hear all that you have to say and what you're thinking and how you're feeling. We love it when you call in. We love it when you show up on the Facebook. However you engage with us, we are grateful for that, and we are grateful for how you support KABF. We are 41 years old, and we are only able to say that because of you. All of the ways that you show up with your financial resources, with your community resources, with your human resources, all the ways that you show up for us, for that we are grateful. And so we are ready in a minute. Tony, do you have any announcements?
No announcements this morning.
You don't have any announcements. I have just a couple of announcements before we move on to our EJI tidbit that is going to ground us. We're going to ground ourselves in the song as well as the tidbit. But there, Osiris Bali, who was on the show not too long ago, he's on the school board. He's an artist. He is going to be speaking at the Grant Makers for Southern Progress 2025 convening, The Seeds of Sovereignty. And the title is Reclaiming the Rural South. This is the title of Osiris's talk, Reclaiming the Rural South. So the theme of the convening is the seeds of sovereignty. And the title of his talk is Reclaiming the Rural South. And you can participate in that on Wednesday. That's tomorrow, October 15th from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Again, if you are interested in that, you can reach out to Osiris. You can find him on Facebook for sure. I also have an announcement about what's happening at Pyramid Art, Books, and Custom Framing. On this Saturday, October 18th, from 3 to 7 p.m., there is a gallery talk and an artist reception with Rex Deloney. There is a gallery talk and artist reception with Rex Deloney, who was born right here in North Little Rock. That's happening on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, from 3 to 7 at Pyramid Art, Books, and Custom Framing. And then finally, I would like to pause for a moment of silence for Miss Major Griffin Gracie, who is one of, for those of you who are in this conversation, who are participating in the conversation around what it means to live in a world that embraces the diversity of all of us, even across the lines of sexual orientation and gender identity. And so Miss Major has been an advocate for people of trans experience, people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer. She has been an advocate, an activist. She's been jailed. She's done the marches. She's been hit. She's done all of these things, working on behalf of unity for all of us, moving us forward in the conversation about collective liberation, where the spirit of Sawubona is what rules. Our humanness is what rules, nothing else. And so I just want to pause for a moment because she passed away October 13th, which was yesterday. So I just want to pause for a moment of silence for Miss Major. Thank you for that. This song, my friend Triana sent me this song, This Ain't No Tryout. she sent it to me because she said, Denise, I just feel like this is something you would say to your man. And I'm like, what? Like that was before I read it. So she sent me the text, she sent me the song, but that was the message. And I said, well, let me listen to this song. And so I listened to this song, This Ain't No Tryout. And by the time we finished the song, I had to let her know, no, that's not something I would say to my partner at all. Because if I have to say those things, then this relationship is already doomed. It's not going to work. However, the more as I was listening to it, that's what I was feeling like. No, this is not a song for me in my personal life, but it is absolutely a song that we can root and ground in conversations around liberation and freedom and justice and equity and peacefulness in this world. And so when we're listening to Zania Monet sing This Ain't No Tryout, first let me say this. This is an AI generated voice that you're listening to. The actual writer of the song, her name is Talisha Nikki. I know her last name is going to come to me in just a minute, but she is a Mississippi native. She's a Mississippi native, and she is an entrepreneur, and she created this song. She created this voice so that she could push forward her Talisha Nikki Jones. That's her name, Talisha Nikki Jones. So she created this voice using AI generated tools so that she could add the artistry to her writing. So in order for her writing to be received in more volume, with more energy, with more effort, with more. So people from all over the world, rather than thinking about like what can we do locally, like what can we do across the states, like she's able to use this AI generated voice, just like other musicians in the industry. And so her name is Talisha Nikki Jones, and she's from Mississippi, and she's an entrepreneur there. And so this is an AI generated voice. So I wanted to make sure I said that because there's a whole conversation about AI happening now with her and AI, because this Black woman was able to create this AI artist, Zania Monet, and she secured a $3 million record deal, and she has full ownership of her music. She created this AI artist called Zania Monet, and she secured a $3 million record deal and full ownership of her music. And if you look at some of the comments around this post that came up on Threads, you hear people saying, you trying to make me believe that AI signed a contract? That's why it was important for me to tell you that Talisha Nikki Jones is a real live human who wrote the words that we were listening to. So she's the one who signed the contract. So as I listened to the song, I found so many places and spaces where we can insert, where we can lift this song up out of the context of whether or not it's AI, whether or not AI is taking over, whether or not it's computer. We can stop. I'm not even interested in that conversation. But how do the words of this song point us in a direction where we need to be focused on what's happening to us in and around us through this, in the world and in our country and in our state and in our city. Like, let's drill it down and see how this affects us. So as I listen to the song, I see so many places of social justice areas where we can talk about issues. I see the issue of tokenism. I see the issue of forgiveness. I see the issue of internalized racism. I see the issue of the white savior complex. I see the issue of DEI. I see the issue of hypersexualization. I see the issue of comfortability for white folks. I see the issue of people touching us, especially Black folks, without our permission. So without consent, you put your hands on somebody else's body. I see the issues of knowing your worth, and I see the issue of what it means to say, oh no, I'm doing the work of changing hearts and minds. And I also see the issue of Black don't crack. So I wanted to root the conversation in this story because my favorite line, I have a friend named Kristen who taught me how you can pull out your favorite line, and it also helps guide the conversation when you're listening to songs. And my favorite line in the song is when the voice says, I'm not going to compete against your fear. I'm not competing against your fear. And so what the song is saying is that, listen, this world has set it up so that Black folks, just by showing up on any scene, you are already considered to be a threat to somebody just because of your Blackness. Then when you add to it the other layers, if you are a Black man, that's one thing. If you are a Black man with a big stature, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you were just made like that. The countrymen, like we talk about. And then that's a whole different experience that people have of thinking of you as being threatening. If you are a Black woman like me with a bald head, you are considered a whole nother layer of being threatening. And so when this voice said, I'm not going to compete against your fear. I'm not going to try to prove to you that I'm not a threat. I'm not going to try to prove to you that I'm not here to make you uncomfortable. I'm not trying to prove to you anything about who I am and who you believe me to be because you've been conditioned and programmed. I know who I am. She says, I don't audition to be loved. I don't compete to be kept. I don't shrink to be seen. I know who I am. Do you? Because if you don't know who I am, I don't have time to offer you no tryout. I'm not going to let you audition for my love. You don't get to say, oh, let me just see, let me go. In the song, the voice says, you only want the highs. You don't want to go deep. So you only want me in the way that you can have me that's beneficial to you. And this voice says, I'm not here for it. I'm not going to do it because I recognize who I am. I ain't proving nothing. I'm not going to beg to be a something. But I ain't staying in no halfway home. I bring love that don't miss. I'm not the prize for a aborted fix. You want the throne, but you need to show me what you are about because over here, this ain't no tryout. And so that's the song. Those are some of the words that we are rooting this conversation in about what it means to know who you are, to walk in the boldness of who you are, to be confident in who you are, and to not give in to anybody else's doubts about who you are. That's how we're going to start the conversation today.
Yeah, and I think you're right. When you think about all the different things, what I call labels, that try to identify people, when you, especially Black people, when you do that, no matter what you try to deflect or what you try to do, a lot of these things are so ingrained. I call it brainwash. Some people are so brainwashed into these things, and if you're not careful, the things that you know not to be true, you end up believing them to be true because other people think they're true. And I think the issue, as you said, Denise, is that once you stop competing against other people's fear and you center and ground yourself in who you are, then it becomes a better walk or a better journey in your life.
I wonder have people even heard us because I had this I still had this on. Do you think people were still able to hear us? I still had the auxiliary mini on.
It don't matter.
It doesn't matter.
As long as you had the mic on.
I had the mic on.
Then they heard.
Okay, so they heard us. Okay, because I'm like, oh, we done said a lot in all this time. And so when I was listening to this voice, I felt in the song that this person is a Black, well, I already know she's Black, but that much of the message is directed to white people and all Black people, but particularly white people. And because of that, this is the EJI tidbit that I chose to help continue this conversation. And I'm going to read more than I usually read about the tidbit because all of it is pertinent to the conversation. On October 14th, that would be today, on this day in 1834, authorities charged 4 white people with unlawful assembly for convening a literacy class for Black residents in Wheeling, a city in present-day West Virginia that was then a part of Virginia. Listen to me again. On October 14th, this day in 1834, authorities charged 4 white people with unlawful assembly for convening a literacy class for Black residents in Wheeling, a city in present-day Virginia that at the time was a part of the state of Virginia. And I wanted to bring that up. I'm going to tell you some more stuff about it, but I wanted to bring that up because One of the things I felt when we were on that the workplace show with Tony's guest not too long ago is in the air with Gary. I felt this issue, this idea that to be pro-Black means to be anti-white. And this is another one of those spaces where the world conditions you to use social indicators as a way to drive a wedge between people. And so we have this idea around race that if you stand up and put your raise your fist like the young men did in the athletes, what are their names? Tommy
Smith and John Collins.
Tommy Smith back in the when they raised their fist, 1968 Olympics, and they weren't in the United States. They were in Mexico. They were in Mexico City, and so they lost so much of their livelihood. They lost so much of their career because just for you to dare to bring attention to Blackness must be a threat to whiteness. And so we've been taught and conditioned to believe that anybody, especially people who are Black, if you want to stand firm, flat-footed, 10 toes down, Black Panther is Malcolm X by any means necessary, then that means that you are against us. So I felt that in the air as we were talking. But it's important for us to remember that, well, because they also refuse to teach you your history, for many Black people of the African diaspora, we are well aware that it is not only Black people fighting for civil rights. When we celebrate the lives of those 3 men who died in Mississippi because they were registering people to vote, 2 of them were white. One of them was, we celebrate that because we know that it is a collective effort that's going to get us to where we are going. So just because we are pro-Black doesn't mean that we are anti-white. But however, because we are Black, we also experience the same situation differently because of our race. And that's why the critical race theory is important. And that's why intersectionality is important, because all of us can be facing the same might be in the same predicament. Like we talk about poverty. Yes, there are white people in poverty. There are Black people in poverty. There are non-Black or white people in poverty. Yes, but depending on the labels you've been given, your experience in that poverty changes. And so even though you can say, yes, we've got these 4 white people who have come alongside these Black people to do this work, let's watch what happens. That day, we're talking about October 14th in 1834, a group of free Black people met at a Wheeling schoolhouse to attend a literacy class taught by Ellen Ritchie, John Templeton, John Moore, and Stanley Cuthbert. When authorities learned about the gathering, they declared that the literacy class was against the peace and dignity of the Commonwealth. And that's a quote. It's against the peace and dignity of the Commonwealth. And they charged the 4 instructors under an anti-literacy law passed 3 years earlier by Virginia's all-white legislature. So the white people got in trouble for meeting with the free Black folks for trying to help them learn to read in this literacy class that they were teaching. So the 4 white people, they say, oh, no, I believe in the spirit of Sawubona. I know that racism is wrong. I want to come alongside your Black body with my body that is white. And I want us to be unified in this fight against civil rights. That's what they did. And they were charged with under the anti-literacy law passed. Okay, let's keep going and watch what happens. That 1831 law, which led to at least 4 dozen prosecutions in Wheeling alone, declared that all meetings of free Negroes or mulattoes at any schoolhouse, church, meeting house, or other place for teaching them reading or writing, either in the day or at night, under whatsoever pretext, shall be deemed and considered as an unlawful assembly. So now they bring in the non-white people and the non-Black people with the mulattoes. That would be the people that some of us call brown today. So y'all can't mix these races no kind of way, or else you're going to be in trouble. Now let's keep going. The law authorized officers to enter the meeting space, break up the meeting, and subject any Black person found in attendance to up to 20 lashes. The white people convicted under the law faced a fine of up to $50. Now that's the equivalent of $1,800 today, so that's no joke. But they received a fine and could be in prison for 2 months. Now, the white people and these free Black people, they came together in the spirit of oneness, celebrating the humanity of knowing everybody has a right to learn how to read. So together we're going to go through this. But when it came down to the law, and the law looked at the white people and said, oh, we're going to charge you as guilty of this crime under this law that we passed 3 years ago, but we're just going to fine you. You might go to prison, but probably not. We're just going to fine you. But any black person that's in here, you're going to get 20 lashes. And one would think, wait a minute, that's what you did when the people were enslaved. You lashing folks, but we free. It don't matter, you're black. And so that's why we have to continue to have conversations around the pervasive evil of racism, because you cannot say that just because we were in the room together, just because we went through the same thing, that we shared the same experience. And as long as you are willing to only listen to one story, we cannot move forward in collective liberation, because there are a plethora of stories. Because even as a black person, your story isn't going to be the same as another black person. So we have to realize that you can never take race off of the table. And just because I'm talking about race, it doesn't make me anti-black. What it makes me is one who will enlighten you, because you need to hear the other side.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the problems that was going on then, and it's still going on. When just because you can come through the front door and don't have to go to the back door, just because you can go to the same bathroom, just because you can go to drink out the same water fountain, does not mean that the things that have been set in place have changed. There are some things that have been set in motion that still hold true to this day. And Solar Bean says this all the time, and I have to agree with him when he talks about collateral damage. I was listening to a show last night, last week tonight on HBO, and it's talked about this new president of CBS who is gay, married to a woman.
Wait, he gay and married to a woman?
She.
Oh, she. Oh, okay.
She is gay. She's married to a woman, and now that she's the head of CBS and all the news organizations within CBS, she is the head of it. And listening to her, and she said that she was anti-DEI, she was anti so many different rights. And it was fascinating because everything about DEI, she actually benefited from.
Say that.
She benefited from DEI. And people, some DEI, when you hear DEI, I look at it as a code for the N-word, to me, because what you're saying is like you put it on black people that DEI is something for you. But in reality, the people who have benefited from DEI are LGBTQ, transgender, women. You have benefited from the policies of DEI. But going back to what we said earlier, if you are being taught that DEI only pertains to black bodies, then you never look at how it benefits everybody, so many other people. And so that's the one thing we have to always look at, going back to what you said, Denise, is when black and white or brown people or Asian, when you're in that space to talk about certain things, they're going to look at you differently than the white people that's in that space. And that's going back, that's not anti-white. That's just the way society has set it up. That's the institutionalized racism that we talk about.
Yeah, and so again, this push against CRT, I'm just only speaking from my experience. In my experience, the people who are anti-CRT don't know what it means. You have no idea of the concepts. You have no idea of the purpose and the mission for the conversation. You have no idea of how it can work to help us dismantle these systems of oppression and discrimination and domination and power and war. You have no idea, because you are only listening to the echo chamber that you are participating in. So critical race theory again says, hey, let's look at the same situation and let's look at the the results of it. And let's ask ourselves, what would be the optimum results for us? What is it that we really want to see as we are fighting this issue? How do we want to see it play out in the lives of people? And so in order to do that, you've got to consider which people you're talking about, because you cannot put everybody in the same group. So at the beginning of the show, I asked you to pause for a few minutes as we honored the life of Miss Major. Miss Major is a Black trans woman. Now, one of the reasons that we honor her is because of how she has fought. She has had to fight for her existence every single day of her life. When she finally decided that I'm going to be who I was created to be, I'm going to live my truth. Once she made that declaration and once she made it public, she's been fighting to the day she died. Now, so the issue right next, so the subject that we're talking about, the topic is being of trans experience. Now, she's a trans Black woman. Now, let's take Caitlyn Jenner, who is a trans white woman. Well, now, Caitlyn Jenner, not too long ago, was deemed Woman of the Year. So the Black trans woman is fighting every day just to exist. But the white trans woman has received an award, was on the magazine cover for being Woman of the Year. So critical race theory says you cannot deny the reality of their two lives. These are two people, both of them having the label of being of trans experience, but when you add the factor of race, when you include the intersection of race and being trans in America, the whole conversation shifts. So that's what the critical race theory pushes us to consider. You can't just tell me, oh, well, all women got the right to vote in 19 whatever. No. The first people who got the right to vote were who? White women. So when Tony brings this conversation about this white gay woman, this white lesbian who says I'm anti-DEI, I mean, wait a minute, ma'am. That means not only do you not know what DEI is really about, you don't know yourself. You don't realize, because you are so complicit in the system of whiteness, that you can't even see how you yourself are being used and abused by this system. And that's what's happening, not just to people who are white, but also it's internalized racism that us Black folks are dealing with too, which is something that comes up in the story that The Voice is singing for us this morning, because she said, when she talks about, I'm not going to compete for your fear, I'm not going to beg to be a something. So many of us as Black people are suffering from internalized racism, that we believe the lie about ourselves. We believe that we are lazy. We believe that we are less competent than white folks. We believe that we don't have the dignity and integrity to lead an organization. We believe that we don't know how to manage a whole bunch of money. We believe those lies about ourselves, and so we find ourselves y'all don't find yourself. We watching you beg for the system of whiteness attention, beg to be close to them, beg to be embraced by them, beg to be one of them, beg to be like OJ. I ain't Black, I'm OJ. No, OJ, you was Black, and that's why you ended up incarcerated anyway, because the number of years you got for stealing your trophies back or whatever, same number of years you would have gotten if you had been convicted of killing Nicole. And so we have to stop for a moment and say, hey, if we cannot stand firm on the foundation of our reality when we are having conversations about social justice, then we just can't talk, because this ain't no tryout. Caller, you're live on the air at KABF at 8.3. Thanks for calling.
Yes, thank you. I think it's kind of interesting that the lady that Tony was talking about, that's now the head of CBS or whatever channel it was, at first she was anti-DEI because she didn't know that it affected her. So that's interesting, because why was she anti-DEI? Because she thought it affected only Black people. So now she's all right with it, though. You know what I'm saying? So, so that's just saying that we are still separate, even though just like the women's rights movement, everybody, Black women, white women together, no, it was, we are always going to be separately looked upon in a different way than anybody else. Like you said, Caitlyn Jenner, she's all right, but the other Black lady who's trans was not. So nobody wants to be together with us on anything. And I just want to say that and thank you for allowing me to talk.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, and one thing we have to understand, and the person I'm talking about, her name is Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss. She started a podcast and started this organization called the Free Press, and now CBS has been bought by Larry Ellison, and who is the Oracle founder and everything. But here's the thing, within the context of this conversation. So we are in a new era in this country. There is a reshaping of this country that's bringing things from the past to be more prevalent in the present. And what I mean is that when powerful people, billionaires, want to reshape, they're buying this country. They're buying this country and they're owning it. And what they're doing, when you talk about coming together as the spirit of Sawubona, as the spirit of one, what they're doing is saying, you know what? We're going to let you come. You can come together, but we're going to make sure that the issues that always have been underlying this country will still be there. We're going to make sure that race is still going to be there, even though we tell you we're getting rid of DEI and affirmative action because everybody is, we want everybody to be one. No, because if we can keep those things going, then you're going to always either look at yourself as less and somebody else going to look at themselves as more. As you said, Denise, yes, we may be poor. And I want people to understand, you've heard me say this before. I believe in the humanistic. I believe in the humanity of people, that if people can embrace their humanity. But you can never embrace your humanity if you never get past the history of humanity and the history of this country. If you can't understand that and learn how to move within it, then you're going to always be stuck where we are.
Caller, please call back. I didn't want to interrupt Tony while he was talking, so please call back. We want to hear what you have to say. Absolutely, and yes. And so another thing that came up, it wasn't Gary. What was the other? James. When we were on the workplace, it was probably me. More than likely, it was me that said something about the system, and immediately he said there is no system. Immediately he said that. And so again, if you are not, with Tony, you said you gotta talk about the history. You got to bring the history of humanity into the conversation. If you think that every time I bring up race or every time I say something that you consider to be pro-Black, if you think you can shut all of that down because you don't want to hear, because you don't believe in the system, you cannot out of that same mouth say, oh, but I'm for everybody. I want to fight for everybody. I believe, or like Gary was saying, I love it. I love you. I love everybody. Your love means nothing if you cannot embrace the humanity. How you gonna love somebody that you don't even consider human? How you gonna love somebody that you don't even agree with should be in leadership or should live beside you or should go to school with you? What kind of love is that? And so the caller made me think about another issue I'm having with internalized racism. I'm trying to see what's going on. Caller, you're on the air. Okay, caller, I'm not sure. I probably messed up something, but please call us back. We want to hear what you have to say. A couple of the lines in the song that we said, this ain't no tryout. That's the name of the song. This ain't no tryout. She says, I show up whole. I show up ready, but you treat me like I'm temporary. I know this is what she said. I know I'm whole. I know I'm ready. But when I come into the space with you and I share the space, you see me as disposable. And so one of the things that I've been concerned about over the past few days is this conversation that they're having about Bad Bunny. Do you know the conversation about Bad Bunny? So Bad Bunny has been tapped to be on the Super Bowl, to be the highlight of the Super Bowl at the halftime show. And so there are plenty of Black people who have joined this conversation in favor of Bad Bunny, who is from Puerto Rico and speaks Spanish. And so the MAGA people are all mad, saying that they don't want him to be at the Super Bowl. Okay, if Bad Bunny is a Puerto Rican, that means that, I don't want to say that means, but I consider him to be in our brown sibling. We got brown siblings, we got white siblings, we got, okay.
Part of the African diaspora.
Okay, part of that. Well, that's what I'm getting at. Okay, so here we are now with Bad Bunny, and he's having this problem with the MAGA folks. And so Black people are stepping in to try to help him, stepping in to support him, stepping in to encourage him, stepping in to let him know he's not alone. We down with you. We beside you. We're all of that. But when we want to talk about reparations, I then began to see a split within the diaspora, because I don't hear many brown folks saying, oh my goodness, we should be fighting for reparations for Black folks. I don't hear those voices saying that. But when we see, as Black folks, when we see injustice, we want to run, raise our voices, put our body on the line. We want to fight. We're going to blow it up. We're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that everybody is heard. But when it's time for us to be heard, we don't get that same response, because people see us as temporary. I only see you as far as I need you. So we're in this space with Bad Bunny because he needs us right now. We were in this space with LGBTQ people because you needed us at the moment when we were fighting for marriage equality in this country. You needed Black folks who were supporting LGBTQ folks, or who are living the life, who are living their truth. You needed us. But now that you got marriage equality, that was the only thing you wanted, that you needed as a white person, because that's the only thing that kept you from checking all of the boxes of privilege. Now, where do I see white, lesbian, and gay folks talking about reparations for Black people? No. And so this song is asking us to say, wait a minute. Yes, I want to live in the spirit of Sawubona, which is the spirit of oneness, which means all of us understand our oneness together. All of us are going to fight together for what everybody needs. You're just not going to use me to show up when it's good for you. You're not going to just use me to show up when you can get something out of it. You're not going to use me, period. Because if you think I'm trying out, you got me mixed up. She says, because that's not what this is about. This is about me making sure that you know that I already know who I am. I don't need you to define me.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, is we know that there is a concerted effort to keep people at the bottom, to keep people in this country divided, between the have and the have-not, to keep you divided. Then furthermore, if we can keep you divided and then turn around and divide you even more, at some point in time, that if people are in a room with no air, that eventually you would think, you know what? If we don't work together and understand each other, then we're going to die.
Carla, I know you think I'm lying. I promise I'm not lying. I was in the middle of talking. I was trying to keep my stride. Please call back. We do want to hear you. I promise we are not. Yeah, we do. I promise we're not playing.
We do want to hear. And so it's not as difficult as people think it is, especially Black people, marginalized people, poor people. It's not as difficult to do this as they make it out to be, because the only thing that really it requires is what we are doing now here on KABF Community Voices. Have the conversation. You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree. You don't have to believe it, but have the conversation, because in that conversation, go ahead.
Caller, I know you're on the air, live on the air, KABF. Thanks for calling Community Voices.
Hello?
Yes, you're here. You're on the air.
Okay, Denise.
Yes.
That's what I've been trying to tell you and Tony over the years, while y'all been talking up for the Hispanic people. They've never been there for us. They never. Just what you just said. We take up for everybody else but our own. When they was in them Black Haitians back to Haiti, when Bill Clinton was in there, when when George Bush went in there, even when Trump was in there, they were sending them back to Haiti without due process. Didn't nobody stand up for the people. But y'all stand up for everybody but your own people. Thank you. Have a good day.
Well, I appreciate you for calling me out on that, caller. You're absolutely right. I tell people that I really didn't start waking up. I did not know I was Black until I became a pastor. I'm just going to be honest with you. I did not know that I was Black until I became a pastor. And I was, when I became a pastor of a white church in particular in 2009. And so I'm on this journey and I'm new to the journey. And so, yes, I'm stumbling and fumbling and making mistakes. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not pretty sure, I know you're right about it, that I want to be like, no, let's fight for everybody. But I've had to rethink a lot of those things. And so I'm finally to that place where I'm like, I'm not saying that I don't want, that everybody doesn't deserve their rights. And I'm not saying that people who are, yes, you have issues, you fight, and people need to fight with you too. But I'm not going to continue to be the one who lifts you up all the time, and you are not going to return that same energy, and you're not going to be as involved in my life as you want me to be in yours. And just like the song says, you want to see me as temporary. Well, you can't, because I'm here to stay. As a matter of fact, if it were not for me, you wouldn't be here. Caller, you're live on the air at KABF at 8.3 FM. Thanks for calling.
Sawubona, gorgeous. And good morning, General Toney.
It's Solar Beam. Hey, Solar Beam.
Now, I know we don't agree on everything, but first I want to give you an apology. You can take it how you want it. It said never ask for an apology, but I want to give you an apology. Now, my thing this morning is, and you know how I am, I want to say a male wanting to be a female or a female wanting to be a male is not the correct condition of the mind. And the ignorance that we spread one to another is one of the worst poisons that we can have at this time now. Now, I was listening to Brother Umar Johnson this morning, and he was talking about the church and how they want to keep the white Jesus up, the divine melanin. The melanin is connected to the divine that's within us. I know the brother that calls, anyway, it's a good thing that we are waking up. I always say, I'm still learning. And in our learning, I hope it don't take it, like I said, the children of Israel, they were 40 years in the wilderness. Now, how long after the change of the information age do you think that we're going to be second-class citizens or all this stuff being stepped on, them not wanting us to learn our history? How long do you think that will go on? Like Martin Luther King used to say, how long? Anyway, peace and love to all, but I just wanted to say that a male wanting to be a female or a female wanting to be a male is not the correct conditioning of the mind, and we should not spread that kind of poison. Now, if you caught up in that, I love you. I love you, and ain't nothing you can do about it. But peace and love to all.
Whoa, hold on, Tony. Hold on just a minute. Hold on.
I try.
Now, see, herein again lies the problems that we're talking about. You just said it, Tony. The world has already set us up to be divided into certain boxes, particularly the race box. Let's just talk white and black. I know there are other races, created races, but let's just talk white and black. And then you turn around and within the Black community, now you're going to divide yourselves even more because you are caught up in the system of the white. It's so interesting because he said, Sullivan said, I was listening to Umar Johnson talk about the white Jesus that we keep holding on to as Black folks, but it's the white Jesus that taught Sullivan that being a trans experience is not the right mindset. So on one hand, you want to say for the things that you agree with, you want to say, look at them Black folks believing in their white Jesus, but out of your mouth comes white Jesus. And so we cannot, I don't care what is happening with a person's life beyond their Blackness. The fact of the matter, in this world, in this country, in this state, in this city, you are responded to. The world responds to your Blackness. It does not respond to anything else about you. It responds to your Blackness. And so I'm not going to let you, Solar Beam, divide my Black family because you caught up in what white Jesus said in a Bible that the white man has curated.
So one thing I always tell people that know me, I'm a history person. And one of the greatest courses I took in two courses I took in college: anthropology and humanities. And I traced. You started looking at some things. So I agree with you, Denise, about how Hispanic. I'm saying Hispanic because in my travels, in my journey, in my life, I've seen this one thing that happens to Black people also. Cubans hate to be referred to as Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans hate to be referred to as Mexican. Mexicans hate to be referred to as Guatemalan. Venezuelans hate to be referred to as Colombian. They get upset because that's not me. You know, and so what happens when you look at Black people, we never get upset if someone says that, oh, you're this type of Black person. No, that ain't me. That ain't me. That ain't me. But a lot of times we just accept it because if that's the way it's gonna be, that's the way it's gonna be. Do you understand that and as they are trying to deport people, do you know that there are Hispanics, Mexicans or Cuban, who will turn and say, hey, we got some undocumented Colombians in our neighborhood. You need to come get them.
Caller, you're live on the air, KABF. Thanks for calling.
Yes, I'm going to have to disagree with Solar Beam on that because, and I'm a married man and it's always straight, but to make everything short, God made everyone the way they are. If you have feelings toward the same sex, that's the way God configured you. I mean, the way we lived it, that's why I have certain issues with the Bible, certain parts of the Bible, because if God made you that way, and those feelings that you have for someone of the same sex, that's the way it is. And nobody that is, say, gay or anything like that has ever done anything to anyone. If you don't feel like if you have something against being gay, then you keep being your straight self. You should not have to go against how someone else feels. If that's not you, that's not you. What's with all the hassle and everything? Nobody wants to be persecuted. These people, this is the way God made the feelings in you. So let's cut all this out, and that's it. Thank you.
And it just baffles me. It baffles me that Black people, with our history in this country of being discriminated against, being dehumanized, being beaten, being raped, our children being stripped from us, our husbands and wives, the family being torn apart, our children being molested. Caller, you're live on the air, KABF. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, Sister Denise. Good morning, Brother Toney. Those on the web and listening on the radio. The gentleman that called before Solar Beam said he told you that the Hispanics have never done anything for us. He's not a student of history like Tony is because he would know that the reason the Mexican-American War was fought was over history of non-slavery in Mexico and the slavery in the Americas. In Haiti, which is on the same island as the Dominican Republic, the Haitians have been divided against the Dominicans for years and years and years. One is French and the other is Spanish. But they're all products of the African diaspora. Puerto Ricans, like Tony said, are not the same as Cubans. Bad money is not the same as the guy that married Lucille Ball or whatever, Des Arnaz. So you've got this conflict within all of those melanated conditions. And that's the problem. When you say that the Mexicans have never done anything for us, you don't know what you're talking about. They got a whole village of black folks that escaped from America that went to Mexico, and their ancestors, those people still live there today. Never spoke English once they got over there. They speak the language of that land. And we need to become more aware of just what's going on before we say what somebody did or did not do. Because when you spread, like they said, ignorance, which is not knowing, ignorance is when you don't know. And not necessarily what you don't do, but what you don't know. You're ignorant of a fact. That means you don't know the fact. And that part is the reason I said something, because I've never heard Carmelo Anthony, which is a Puerto Rican that played basketball right alongside all the greats that we've mentioned, and we've always mentioned him. We even had tennis shoes that we were wearing with his names on it. So these are folks that we should point to instead of the ones that you say never accepted us, because they are us. We are just as much a part of Puerto Rico as the so-called light-skinned Puerto Rican. We're just as much a part of Cuban as the so-called light-skinned Cuban. And we have that situation all up and down the Americas, where the Europeans came and bought slaves and dropped them off to do the work. And in the case of Haiti, that was a slave colony that rose up and killed all the plantation owners and whooped Napoleon Bonaparte into submission and made him have to sell Louisiana and all those states to America because they were broke, and France was getting whooped on the seas, and he ended up losing at Waterloo. But those Africans are the ones who whooped him first. So we don't know what we're talking about when we say Hispanics don't do this or Hispanics don't do that.
Okay, thank you, Ezekiel. We're running out of time. Thank you for that.
Yes,
I really appreciate
I
it.
don't want to comment on nothing else, but that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. I want to say we only have a couple of minutes, 1 minute left, honestly, but I do want to respond because I don't believe that that's what the caller said, Ezekiel. I don't believe that's not what I heard. I don't want to say. Let me rephrase that. That's not what I heard when the caller came in. What I heard the caller say is this: as Black folks, we are at war as Black folks, not as members of the African diaspora in the United States. I'm talking about Black folks. Yes, we can bring in all of our siblings. Yes. But this world is anti-Black. Okay? And so when we face issues, some of us are not as excited about fighting for our issues as they are about fighting for other folks' issues. That's why I brought up Bad Bunny. There's a whole bunch of Black folks trying to support him. But when we talk about Black issues like reparations or housing injustice and things like that, we're not as excited. And so even if the caller did use those words, that's what I feel like the comment is about. Can we show up for ourselves as hard as we show up for other people? Because we still gonna show up for other people. It's in our nature. That's how we were created. That's how we are created as Black folks. That's just part of who we are. But can we show up? Can we go just as hard for each other as we go for other folks? That's the way I understood what the gentleman said, because we already started the conversation with the tidbit talking about how the white people was helping the Black people read. So we do know that it takes everybody to make this fight happen. So sorry, Tony, I got to sign off.
Go ahead.
Your girl Lola is in the house.
Lola!
Ready for 2 hours of Jazzy Tuesday. And I always get her started as she's coming in. And I want to send a special shout out to Tim. We went with his daddy. Remember Tim? We went with his daddy. Tim's father died almost a year ago. His energy shifted almost a year ago. But Tim was listening to us on a day that I was talking about my mama. And he heard this song and he said, I immediately thought about you. I wanted to send this song to you. And so I just cried when I heard it. And I was sitting at the piano piano. My mom used to ask me to play for her. I just happened to be sitting at the piano when he sent me this text, and I just broke all the way down. So just want to say thank you so much, Tim, for thinking of me, for sending this song, and for giving me a space to cry. I cry all the time, but some people won't give you that space. They don't want you to be crying. They want to say, no, she in a good, better place. Stop crying. We need to cry. So I thank you so much for sending us Steal Her Baby by the same artist that we were listening to earlier, Zania Monet. We will talk to y'all next time.
You know some